Blog Talk Radio.
All right, good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Women of Golf Show. I'm Ted Roderico, and right alongside, of course, each and every week is none other than Legends Tour player and LPGA professional Cindy Miller, and we are the hosts of the Women of Golf Show. Good morning, Cindy.
Good morning, Ted. How are you today?
I'm doing fantastic. Another bright, beautiful, sunny day, a little cooler, but none worse to wear, I guess, as they say, but doing fantastic. How about yourself?
Doing great. The weather's still good in Buffalo, believe it or not.
Yeah. No snow flying yet, right?
No, it's a little scary that it's too warm out.
I know. Enjoy it while it lasts, because believe me, it'll turn quick. Anyways, we want to thank you for joining us this Tuesday morning on the Women of Golf Show, as we are here each and every Tuesday, unless otherwise stated, here on the blogtalkradio.com network, and you can find us there between 9 and 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Just go to blogtalkradio.com, and up in the search key, just type Women of Golf, or just add a /Women of Golf onto the link, and that will take you there as well. And you'll find us there live every Tuesdays, as I said, from 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern. But for some reason, if you can't join us, you can scroll down the page anytime, and in the on-demand section, you'll see all of the previously aired shows in their entirety there in the recorded version, so you can check that on the on-demand section. You can also find us on iTunes or Stitcher.com. If you go there to the podcast section and just type in, again, Women of Golf, you can find us there when it's convenient. So if you prefer to listen on one of those media platforms, you're welcome to do so. We'd love to have you tune in no matter which way you want to do it. But thank you for joining us this morning live. Always love to hear from you or speak to you during the live broadcast on Tuesday mornings, and you're welcome to call us at area code 347-945-5855. Or if you want to email Cindy or I any comments or have questions about the show, you can do so. Or maybe if you're somebody in the golf industry and you'd like to maybe come on and share your thoughts or viewpoints about the game, or how you're doing your efforts to grow the game, we would love to hear from you as well. And our emails are as follows. Cindy is cindy@cindymillergolf.com, and mine is ted.golftalklive@gmail.com. Just a quick announcement. We're getting close here, believe it or not, to wrapping up our 2017 season. Our last show of the season is going to be December 12th, and the show will take a long extended break, and we'll be back on air February 6th, which will be the first Tuesday of February. We're going to take off the month of January, and, of course, observance of the Christmas holidays will be off on the 15th, on December as well, from the 12th right through to the end of the month. So that'll be a perfect time, if you missed any episodes, to go back to the site and listen, as I said, on the on-demand section, and you can pick up any of the shows that you might have missed. We're going to start off today's show. We've got a great guest coming on the second half, Tom Horde. He's the GM of Orange County National Golf Club in Orlando, Florida. But we're going to start off with a three-part series. This is Cindy's Own Your Game series, which we've done a few times on the show, but this is going to be the Lite version. We're going to break it up in three parts. This week, part one, we're going to talk about looking back and sort of taking stock, looking back during the off season. Of course, we're coming up for many of you up in the Northeast right now, particularly. This is going to be your off season. Even though it's a little warm still in Buffalo, Cindy, you might still be able to get a few rounds in, but nonetheless, we are getting to the off season. So this is a time to look back and take stock of your round and sort of do an assessment. So Cindy, what are some things that you suggest for some of your students that you're working with that they do during this off season?
Well, I think it depends on their goals. I would ask them, what did you do well this year? What did you not do so well? I had a potential student call from Cleveland yesterday, and it's funny because he said, well, I'm 80 years old and I want to hit it further. And I said, well, how far do you hit it? He says, oh, maybe 150, 160 yards. And I said, well, how are you physically able? And what I said to him was, what do you shoot right now? And he said, between 90 and 100. I said, what tees do you play from? So I think you really have to inspect everything that you're doing, and you have to ask yourself the question of, what am I doing, and what do I want to do better? How can I improve? And what's feasible? So I said to him, I'm not going to be able to help you hit a 220. You're 80. You should be grateful you can play. And if you can hit it 150 yards, you should be able to reach every green in 1 over regulation if you're playing 5,500 to 6,000 yard tees. So that means, par 4 would be 450, which from 5,500 yards, it's not 450. So again, I said, I can help you shoot 90, but that's probably as good as we can get. And because he said, well, why would I drive 2.5 hours to come see you? I said, well, it would depend on what you're looking for. Will I help you hit it better? Absolutely, I guarantee it. And, so I said, well, have you tried a lot of people in Cleveland? Yes. I said, well, you called me for a reason. So I guess it depends on what they're looking for and what they're willing to do. And if the want is big enough that they're willing to put in the work, then they can achieve results. But they have to be realistic, as we've mentioned on this program a million times.
Yeah, and that's a great point. And, I think really what I like to see people do in the off season, obviously this is the time for reflection, to look back at the season. And as you pointed out, some of the things that, some of the questions, we'll go through a few of them here in a little bit more specific detail. But, you have to do an honest assessment of your game. You have to look. And this is why, Cindy, it's important, I think, for players of all levels, not just the professionals. The professionals obviously do it and keep track of the different stats and that. But it's important to know, how many shots it's taking you to get on the green. Are you doing it in regulation? Are you 1 over regulation? That sort of thing. Same with how many putts are you taking. And then you need to look at it, and you need to sort of do an evaluation of those numbers and look at it and say, where do I need to improve? And, also what the first one I'm going to talk about, or we'll talk about, is what did you do well? So look at the areas first and foremost. What did you do well? You were driving the ball well all season, or maybe you were putting well all season. These types of things you really need to know, because you're not going to improve if you don't know what areas need improvement or what needs to be focused on. Just because you hit a bad tee shot one time doesn't necessarily mean you're a bad driver. It just happens to all of us. So, Cindy, that's something too, is, when you're working with your students, I'm sure the same as me, is I try to assess and take a look at what they did well throughout the season. How about you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's not always about bad things. It's about good things. So, again, this gentleman yesterday, as I use as an example, said I hit the ball pretty straight. And I said, okay, if you don't make a lot of doubles and you hit it pretty straight, then we might have an issue getting that third shot on a par 4 close enough to the pin to 2-putt. Mm-hmm. Because if you can be on every green in 1 over regulation, you just shot 90 if you 2-putt every hole. And once in a while, you might mess up and make a par. So again, I think it's, sometimes people get real emotional about, I got to get better. I got to do this. I got to do this. And it's kind of like, relax, take a chill pill, and let's decipher what really happened and diagnose, so you can detect what you're really doing and where areas that you can improve easily upon. And so that's what I think the off season is. Personally, I hit it a lot better this year. I need to trust what I'm doing a little better. So maybe it's just I have to learn to totally commit to the shot and trust what I'm doing. Could that change my game? Yeah, probably by 3 or 4 shots around. Now, what do
Yeah.
I mean by that? Well, I get to be a little bipolar, or I am a little bipolar. I'm either really good or I'm really bad. And so personally, I have to learn to trust what I'm doing. So maybe I need to take a little longer in calculating the yardage, figuring out the playable yardage, acknowledging stupid and playing away from stupid, meaning, don't say, oh, don't hit it in the bunker. Say, I'm going to the right because the bunker's on the left. And then pulling enough club, pulling the right club out of the bag so that even if I miss the shot, I'm not going in the trap. And it could be just taking 3 more seconds in planning the shot to help you be more effective. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense. Yeah, you have to, part of, looking back and reflecting is looking back at how you managed yourself on the golf course as well. It's not just about how well you hit the ball, but it's really about how well you managed yourself throughout the season. And this is a perfect opportunity. Cindy, one of the things that I guess is a pet peeve of my being, if you will, is when people, go out and play golf all season long, good or bad, and then the off season comes and they just plunk themselves on the sofa and they do nothing. They don't take that opportunity. This is the best opportunity for you to take and do these assessments and look at that. And you don't have to, we're not saying you have to spend hours and hours a day, but, find some time, whether it be each day if you're able to do that, or maybe a couple times a week. If you have access to an indoor facility, keep your game tuned up. Go, see your professional, and if they, like you, Cindy, where you have an opportunity you can work indoors, continue to keep things tuned up throughout the season. Don't just sit there and spend the next 4 or 5 months doing absolutely nothing and then coming up next year and thinking you're going to pick up where you left off, especially if you've had a great season this year and then suddenly you've kind of coasted and done nothing for 3 or 4 months or whatever the case is, and then you come out next year and you're all over the place and can't figure out why. So this is the time not only for reflection, but it's also the time for gathering information and, as I said, assessing what you did well. But also, just as important, Cindy, is you need to look at what needs work. So let's talk a little bit about that. That's an area as well that we need to really help the students understand, is that they need to take a look and be specific about what they need to work on, not just sort of all over the page. So talk a little bit about that, and then I'll add some thoughts at the end.
Well, again, it depends on how much you're really willing to put in the time and effort and to be transparent with yourself. I think an awful lot of amateurs don't really pay attention to the task at hand while they're out there playing. So just asking someone to reflect, wow, I always hit it right. Well, do you have a pre-shot routine? Are you paying attention on each shot you hit? It might just be, wow, I never realized that I don't really pay attention to what I'm doing. So then that would be what you need to work on, needless to say. Again, I think that it depends on the person, and maybe it's I need to chip better. Well, then let's find a way to work on your chipping, and let's work on high chips, low chips, chip and run, pitch shots, flop shots, blah, 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 and then we can help you score better.
Yeah.
How do you do that?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and I do the same thing. Just going back to the gentleman that you spoke to, it just kind of brought me this thought, and that is, if he's shooting 90, distance is probably not his issue. He's obviously getting there enough. I mean, I know people that can belt at 300-plus yards that aren't breaking 90 because there's an area of their game. So, this is somebody that obviously, it's interesting. Let me just back up for a second. It's interesting, Cindy, that the number one thing people seem to go to when they're not playing well is, well, I need to hit it farther. Well, if I could just hit it a little bit further, I'd play better. They don't think about any other part of their game. It's just, I want to hit it farther. And I think there's sort of a built-in a little mantra that people just sort of say, well, if I can get more distance, if I can hit it farther, if I can just belt it down the middle of the fairway, X, Y, Z yards, that I'm going to play better. And don't you find that, maybe see things differently, but don't you find that happens a lot? Everybody seems to think that if they hit it farther, that they're going to play better. As you pointed out, 80 years old, hitting 150 plus yards, that's pretty darn good for that. I hope I can hit it 150 yards when I'm 80 years old. You know what I mean?
I hope I'm 80 years old someday. Again,
yeah.
I guess it all boils down to the fact that they don't reflect correctly on what they're doing. And yes, everyone I teach, I need to hit it further. Not really. You don't.
Right.
So, again, they have no idea. They don't know what they don't know. and it's very unfortunate because I don't know that they, I got to hit it farther. Well, I can scrape it around. In fact, I've got a young girl again who was just in Saturday. Oh, that one didn't go as far. No, but it went straight. I said, guess what, sweetie? You probably outdrive me by 30 yards, and I can beat you blindfolded. Ouch,
right.
That hurt.
Right.
Well, again, it's the truth. So you think, I said, you swing at it so violently that it's a mystery where it's going to go. And so it's almost like you have to talk to them take a slower swing. Don't try to hit it so far. Let's just hit it straight at the target that you're aiming at. That's all this is about.
Mm-hmm.
Hit the ball from point A to point B and get it in the hole. Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. And again, I think it's part of the committee. The committee of she hits it farther than her. And, really?
Yep.
It doesn't matter. No one has lost a tournament on the LPGA or PGA Tour because they don't hit it far enough.
Right.
But they have lost a tournament because they don't hit it straight enough.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yes. You're exactly right.
I totally agree with you. I think it's so sad, and sometimes people need to stop and it's time to look in the mirror. And again, it goes back to my little it box. How bad does it have to hurt before you're willing to change? Take a peek in the mirror and see what you need to do, and then plant a seed and do something about it.
Yeah, and that's the key too as well. And this sort of rolls into the last point here, and that is, what are you willing to do? One of the criticisms that I have is people just don't want to put in the time. They think, well, I don't have time to drive to the range. Well, this day and age, there's no excuse. With all of the information that's available out there, you can do, and we're going to let you roll into a great little plug here in just a minute, but, you can practice whether you're at home, whether you're on the road, maybe on a business trip. You don't even have to have your golf clubs. There's a lot of things that you can do to work on your game if you just use a little ingenuity and work something out. If you're taking lessons or you're working with a coach or a teaching professional, there's a lot of things that you can do without even having to go to the golf course if you're just willing to put into the effort. But the key real phrase here is, what are you willing to do? And unfortunately, the truth of the matter is, Cindy, and we need to be honest as well as professionals, is that no matter how hard we try to instill, what we believe is going to be the key elements of success out on the golf course, if the student is not willing to put forth the effort and not willing to do the things that need to be done, they are never going to improve. And that's really what it boils down to. We can talk to them until it's blue in the face. We can show them all of the ins and outs of how to be a successful player. We can teach them how to play. But if they're not willing to do the things that need to be done in order to do it. Think about this, Cindy, real quick, and then I'll let you respond. When you go for a job interview, you talk about the strengths that you have to offer company A, company B, whatever it happens to be. But in most cases, you either came in with some training or you will receive training. What's interesting is people will not do that when it comes to golf for some reason. They'll go and take a few lessons, but they won't continue to train themselves. They figure, okay, I've took a lesson. I've spent half an hour with Cindy Miller here. I should be able to go out and break 90. That's not going to happen. You're certainly going to present them with the tools and the information, but it's how they take that data in and what they do in their own efforts that is going to result in breaking 90 or whatever their goal happens to be. I'm going to let you respond, and then I think it would be a good time for a plug for the Learn to Hit It kit.
Well, I don't know that, again, so for the listeners out there, stop and say, okay, what did I do well this year? What did I not do so well? What's the maximum potential, that I can hit the ball, that I can feasibly score? What should I be happy shooting? Again, sometimes you play a golf course that there's a par 4 that, like for me, if it's 420, I'm not getting there in 2 unless I kill 2 shots. So par on that golf course might be 73 for me, not 72, because I can't really reach that. So again, realistic goals and attitudes, I guess, is what I want to say. So then once you decide that you really want to get to the next level, then you have to investigate, and you have to find a professional that is willing, that can help you. And then you need to interview them, and you need to say, this is what I want to do. How long do you think it'll take? How many sessions do I need? What kind of work do I need to do on my own? And so again, we're creating an elite junior program for competitive players, and we have a lot of success from this summer, and a lot of 7th grade girls have qualified to go to sectionals for states next year. Well, they're not going to get to states unless they really lower their score. So now we're creating, like 2-hour practice sessions to develop a solid golf swing. Because if you don't know what you're doing with your swing at that level, you can't hit the shot you need. So again, I don't want to ramble, but the point is you need to stop and say, what do I need to do? What do I want to do? What am I willing to do? And then who can help me do it? And you need to interview people. You need to not just go to, I'll try this one, and I'll try this one, and I'll try this one. I would email or call them, just like this 80-year-old man from Cleveland called me yesterday. Why would I drive 2.5 hours to Buffalo to take a golf lesson from you? I said, well, I don't know. Maybe you shouldn't. Let's talk. Because, again, it's not like, I want this guy's money. I don't want this guy's money. If I can't help him, I don't want his money. So you absolutely have to think about it.
That's exactly right. Yeah, you have to, as a player, you have to do your due diligence as well. And you're exactly right. You need to speak to whoever it is that you're looking at. Yeah, and that's something, too, that has bothered me a lot about a lot of the golfers out there, is they're sort of hopping around looking for the person that's going to feed them the information they want to hear. And that's the wrong way to approach it. You need to have a goal, and you need to decide what it is that you want, and then you need to find the person that's going to fit best with you in achieving that goal. And if you're just sort of hopping around taking a lesson.
Yes. I have to interrupt because you just said hopping around. So again, are you hearing what you want to hear, or are you listening for what you need to do? And again, we've got, as I've mentioned before, we teach in a dome with lots of different teachers. And it's funny because you'll see somebody, they were just here with me a few months ago. Clearly, they're looking for the next best thing, and they're not willing to look in the mirror to say, I need to change this process so I can get better. Anyway.
Right, exactly. Yeah, no, that's exactly right. And, it's unfortunate, and I think, again, people can be very fickle when it comes to deciding certain things in their life. Other things they can just sort of breeze by, doesn't matter. But when it comes to something like this, they're either looking for the next best thing, or they're looking to have somebody sort of confirm what they believe, whether it's right or wrong. And I, for one, won't do that. If I know that they're just looking for a pat in the back to say, attaboy, you're doing everything just right, even though you can't break 100, I'm not going to do that. And as you said, I don't want to take their money either. I think it's a waste of time for both parties, because they're obviously not going to be happy ultimately, and I'm certainly not going to be happy because I'm not going to feel like they've benefited from my knowledge. Very quickly, Cindy, let's before we welcome our guest, why don't you let the good folks know how they can get their hot little hands on the Learn to Hit It kit?
Well, for those who say that they can't get to the driving range and they have no place to hit balls, I have created the Learn to Hit It kit, and included in the kit is a portable mat, foam range balls that won't break windows or lights in your house if you need to be swinging in the house, depending on where you live, if you're in Alaska or Buffalo in the winter. My Golf 101 for Executives book, a coupon for 10% off any Callaway golf club, and a 10-module online course with 8 downloadable PDF worksheets that will help you learn to hit it clean, airborne, and straight on purpose. So it's $99 for everything, the mat, the balls, the book, the coupon, the online course. So if you go to learntohititkit.com, you can buy yours today, and you have absolutely no more excuses. You can hit balls in your backyard, your living room, your front porch, your hotel room.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And that's what I said earlier, Cindy, is there are so many opportunities for people to improve their game, both in what we call the regular season and even the off season. And, if you were to put a checklist together very quickly of what you would like to see people do during this off season, what would that be?
I would say become aware of whether or not you have a pre-shot routine. Find something that's comfortable for you so that you can be clear on what your process is and become comfortable, which only then will you become consistent. And I would do lots of drills. I would practice half swings, trying to hit it straight on purpose to specific targets. And if you do that, you'll gain so much confidence, and you'll get the courage to really compete and know what you're doing, whether it's, competing against yourself or in the U.S. Open.
That's right. I agree wholeheartedly. There's so many opportunities that have, the off season for me, when I was still living back up north, was always an interesting time for me. I was very lucky. I had a full-length mirror in my basement, and I was able to, besides looking at myself, I was able to, check different areas of my swing. I could look to make sure my posture was correct, to make sure even ball position. And I would do things, I'd put some tape on the mirror just to make sure that I was standing in the correct position. And, for me, it was a lot of fun because there's nothing worse, as you get a little bit older, you don't really want to be out in the cold as much as you were when you were a kid. And I would always take that opportunity to work on my game. And I was lucky because I had very high ceiling in the basement, so I could actually swing a club. And unfortunately, I didn't use foam balls and broke a window here or there over the years, which, as a youngster, my parents didn't appreciate. But they knew it was for the greater good. But, so there's a lot of things that you can do in the off season. And as I said earlier, there's no excuse. And something that kind of came to mind when you were talking about the young lady earlier as well, that, that you were helping. This goes back to something I said last week that we talked about, and that is really learning to swing within yourself. A lot of people, young and old, get out there and they feel they just got to murder the ball, and they get themselves out of sequence and out of timing. And that's a quick trap to get yourself in. So, you need to understand your body rhythm and how it works. And I think that once you do that and you get into your own rhythm and swing the club what's natural for you and not somebody else, I think that you'll find yourself hitting the ball much better with much more consistency as well. But when you start speeding it up or slowing it down slower than what your body really requires, that's going to bring in some other issues, of course, but that's going to make things a little bit more difficult. So those are things to think about as well through the off season. We're going to be joined here. Great discussion. Thank you, Cindy. And next week we're going to talk about, in part 2, is helping you to find the right coach, as Cindy touched on a little bit, but also implementing a game plan in part 2. And then we're going to wrap it up the week after this 3-part series, Own Your Game Lite, as we've called it, establishing mind control and mental preparation. So we're going to talk about that and how the mind works, and the body will go where the mind tells it to. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. But the second half of the show, of course, we're going to welcome our very special guest, Tom Horde. He's the GM and Senior Operations Manager at Orange County National Golf Club in Orlando, Florida. He's in my wheelhouse. He's about 53 years old, originally from Indiana. He's married with 3 children, ranging from 25, 22, and right down to 13. And I believe his 13-year-old has won multiple times, 60 in fact, I think, on many of the junior tours throughout the U.S. And he also mentions here about starting a new mini tour with high guaranteed payouts. So obviously we're going to talk to him about that. And also I believe Orange County hosts the Q School every other year. And he boasts that 100,000 plus rounds per year at the OCN Golf Village. So we're going to talk to him in just a moment when he comes on board. But Cindy, I know that you're familiar with Tom, and I know you go down to Orange County National. Tell us a little bit about, we'll get Tom's perspective, but tell us a little bit about OCN and your experience down there.
Well, Orange County is where we hold our boot camps each year. And I met Tom, needless to say, when we were doing the boot camps, and he is just such a wonderful general manager. He was an assistant manager first and then got promoted, and he just does such a great job. And Orange County has renovated all their rooms, so all of our students can stay right there in the lodge, and they have great food, and the golf courses are second to none. Trust me, they are absolutely amazing. So I asked Tom to come on because, needless to say, I think you're aware that Orange County probably has the biggest driving range ever in the world. I'm not sure.
Right.
It's 360 degrees. It's absolutely gorgeous. And each year it hosts the demo day for the PGA merchandise show. So I can't imagine how many people go walking around demo day. I'm sure he's going to have numbers for us, and I'm sure something came up, and that's why he hasn't called in yet. But anyway, Orange County is amazing. They've got the Tooth, which is a 9-hole practice course, and we used to be able to take carts. Now you have to walk, but there are let's see, number 1, number 2 are par 3s, number 3 is a par 4. There are 2 par 4s in the 9 holes. So, and it's really a good golf course. So it's not just, an extra piece of land with the greens being terrible. It's a great practice course. And we take our students out there the first and the last days.
Yeah, and you've got, as you said, you go down there, and that's where you have a lot of your boot camps. And, it's a great practice facility. And as you pointed out, the PGA Merchandising Show has their demo day there every year, and I'm sure they'll be back there again this year in January when they have this upcoming PGA Merchandising Show. Talk a little bit while we wait for Tom. As you said, he may be running a little bit late here with something, but you had some boot camps this year. Have you got some boot camps lined up for next year?
We do. If you go, we're going to be February. We've got 2. We've got a junior boot camp, and then we've got an adult boot camp right after. The schools up here in Buffalo have off for a February break, and that's when we take the kids down. And then we have one scheduled for March and another one for April. So we've got 4 boot camps scheduled. If you're interested in going, needless to say, it's not really a golf vacation. It's called boot camp for a reason. We really help you learn to get better at golf. I don't want to say I beat you up, but it's a very comprehensive game improvement program. So it's 4 days long. You could go to cindymillergolf.com and click on instruction and click on boot camp, and you can see all the dates and the times and what we're going to be doing with the itinerary and everything.
Right, and the emphasis on the word boot camp. You're not going there to host a tea party. You're there to work your little buns off and become a better player. So, and you're going with two of the best in the business, Cindy and Ellen Miller.
And we do have a good time. Needless to say, we work on your game every day. And in the morning, we work on your game. We have lunch, and then we play 18 holes every day. So the reason the boot camp is I think it's so good and different is the fact that we do play golf with you every day. So someone is with you at all times. We limit it to 8 people. So Alan or I, my husband, are with you the whole time that we are out there on the golf course. So needless to say, we help you create this pre-shot routine and plan, prepare, and produce golf shots. So people really have changed their game.
Well, and the interesting thing about it too is you're helping them to instill and ingrain some good a good process, I guess you will, and training, because a lot of people don't know how to prepare themselves. They don't have a pre-shot routine, or they don't know how to get themselves into some sort of a routine in their golf game. Period. So the boot camp not only teaches them obviously many of the skills that they're going to need, but you're also ingraining some good, good training, if you will, in the boot camp to help them. So when they leave, they can say, okay, this is what we did down there to work on the game, but this is what we did in preparation and practice, pre-game and post-game. So now they're learning some good skills that they're going to be able to take with them even long after the boot camp. So that's a great way to put it all together for them, and I really like that. You guys obviously do a fantastic job, and that's why you continue to have these great boot camps. Is obviously word gets around that you're running a successful program, and that's fantastic.
Well, the other thing that's included in the camp is a behavioral profile. So you take a disc golf report to find out what your personal style is. You take a learning style assessment to find out whether you want to hear it, see it, or feel it, and then we do a mental golf report so we can find out, what of the 8 traits of mental golf that, champions use to play golf better, what do they do and how do you compare to them? So it's very, very, very comprehensive. So for somebody who's like, I have no idea what I'm doing, I'm so frustrated and I really want to get better, it's the best investment that, you can make in yourself.
Yeah, and it goes back to what, we talked about earlier, and we've said so many times on the show is sort of taking a look at oneself in the mirror and deciding what it is that you want to accomplish. We can provide you with all of the tools and all of the skill set necessary to get out there and play your best game. But you have to really, understand first off and foremost why you're there. That first question is why, am I out there to just have fun? Am I out there because I'm interested in playing competitive golf? Or, I want to beat my friend's brains out, or what's the reason that you're there? So you need to understand that first and foremost. But then, you need to understand and be realistic with yourself is, what are the challenges that I'm going to be faced with out in the golf course? How am I going to handle those challenges? And what am I willing to do to overcome some of the obstacles? The other thing too, Cindy, that I think a lot of people misunderstand is we're not just teaching you how to hit the ball. We're teaching you how to play the game, and that's really the key emphasis here. Is folks need to understand to learn to become a better player. There's a lot of through history, City. There's a lot of great ball strikers out there who, incidentally, weren't great players, and that's because they didn't really learn how to play the game. They just were too focused on how to hit the ball, perfect every time. Which is nice, but if you don't understand how to play the game once you get out in the golf course, you're going to be looking good on the range, but maybe not so good on the golf course. Do you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. And I'm married to someone who's was second purest ball striker Dave Powell's ever tested, and we're not millionaires. So sometimes you can be so left-brained. And I'm not. I mean, my husband survived for 15 years on the PGA Tour without ever losing his card. So it's not that he was bad; he was good. But you have to stop and say, what's missing? What's missing? And if you're willing to reflect on that, you can always find an answer, and you can always improve. But you need to be aware that yes, playing golf left brain doesn't work. You've got to be able to be right brain. You've got to be resilient. You got to have bounce back. You got to be able to plan shots. And that's exactly what we do in the boot camp. You have to learn how to take the skill that you've learned, So, again, we've talked about this before, too. Playing lessons are great if you can hit the ball, because
yes,
if you can't hit the ball, when we say, okay, aim it over here and it goes over there, well, then this is a waste of time and money and effort because you haven't put in the work to be able to hit the ball. So you're absolutely right. Hitting the ball and learning to play are two different things.
Yeah, exactly. And you have to learn how to to marry the two. I mean, obviously you need to become a good ball striker first. You don't have to be the best, but you need to be reasonable. There is a certain expectation, as you said, that you need to be able to hit the ball relatively straight. I mean, if you've got a little bit of a curve in it, that's okay. You can still work with that. But if you're all over the golf course, if you're left, right all the time, you're just not going to enjoy and have fun playing this great game. So you need to certainly develop those skills first, but then you need to know how to put them to work out in the golf course to benefit you. And I think unfortunately the latter is what a lot of people don't work on, but the first part of it is what they spend the most. When I see out in the golf on the practice tee, I don't see people creating simulations for when they get out in the golf course. As an example, pretending that green out there is their approach shot. They're just sort of hitting balls, raking, as we've said many times, raking and hitting golf balls without really putting any thought into it. And then they get out in the golf course, the first tee, and they're all over the place. They just can't figure out why. Well, I was hitting them so good on the range, but that's because there was no pressure, but also they weren't really putting any thought into their practice time in preparation for the round they're about to play. And that's something that you see, I'm sure, a lot with students that you've worked with. And that's sometimes a difficult beast to break the habit of, and that's one of the other reasons why I think your boot camps are successful as well, is you make sure that people practice with a purpose.
Yeah, and again,
right.
It might be just choosing the right club. I mean, do you know how to pick a club? Do you know how to figure out the wind? I mean, there's the art, there's the science of, how far does the ball go? And then there's the art of, well, it's cold out today and it's wet. The air is heavy. And so sometimes, if you say, well, I hit my 7-iron 150. Well, it's 150 to the hole. Well, it's 150 to the hole, and it's uphill against the wind, and it's 50 degrees. So now your 150 is playing 170. So it could be simple as that, of making better decisions. So it's so important. It's not, again. And that's why there's certain programs, I guess you could say, when somebody comes in, and that's why I had to interview the gentleman that called me yesterday, who was from Cleveland, who's 80 years old. How often do you play? 2 or 3 times a week? How far do you hit it? What do you shoot? How many putts do you have per round? And some people don't know. Well, I don't know. Well,
yeah,
we need numbers. It's kind of like, diagnostic testing. You got to go get an X-ray to see if the bone's broken. And so you have to have numbers to measure to figure out what to work on. And if the teacher that you're interviewing doesn't ask you those questions, you need to run.
Yeah, you're exactly right. It's like going to your doctor. You're exactly right. If you go to your doctor and he's not asking you questions, he's just writing out a prescription, or he's making an appointment for surgery without really diagnosing what the problem is and learning and listening to you, then that's not a visit that you want to make. And it's the same thing with your golf pro. You want to make sure that the golf pro is asking you the right questions. And you might say, well, I don't know what questions should be asked. Well, if they're not asking you any questions and they're just signing you up for lessons, you're right, Cindy. I mean, you need to run. And I know most of the people out there, I think, in this profession are very good about doing the right thing, but there are some. And this is where sometimes people run into the trap. They see a lot of stuff on the internet. They're seeing a lot of videos from somebody that just has an opinion, and you've got to be careful of that as well. It's not to say necessarily that the information is always wrong, but you need to understand where it's coming from. So, Cindy, I'm not sure. It sounds like maybe Tom might have run into a little bit of a snag this morning. We'll keep going here for a little bit longer, see if he joins us. But if not, maybe we can get him to come on another day when things are a little bit relaxed for him. But let me just remind everybody, of course, we are live every Tuesday mornings from 9 to 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time here on the blogtalkradio.com network. Again, just to let you know where to find us. Obviously, if you're listening, you know where to find us, but maybe you can share this information with some of your fellow golfers. but just go to blogtalkradio.com/Women of Golf, or just type Women of Golf up in the search key, and that will take you to the main page. And of course, Tuesdays during the live broadcast will be front and center. But for some reason, if you can't listen live and you need to visit that link a little bit later on when it's convenient for you, not to worry. Just scroll down to the on-demand section, and you will find the shows there that you've missed, or even today's show in a little bit. It'll be there in its entirety, so you can listen to the recorded version. You can also check us out on Stitcher and iTunes.com. Under the podcast section, just type in, again, Women of Golf, and that will take you there as well. And we update every week on social media, Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. We let you know where we are and who's coming up on the show. So make sure you check us out on social media. And then for some reason, if you want to reach out to either Cindy and I, maybe you've got an interesting topic that we haven't covered, or maybe you'd like us to get more in-depth, or maybe you know of a great professional in your area that we haven't had the pleasure of interviewing, by all means, please reach out to us. Or if you need help with your game and maybe you'd like to discuss that with us, you can reach out to either Cindy and I, and her email is cindy@cindymillergolf.com, and mine is at ted.golftalklive@gmail.com. Cindy, I know that you've got a little bit more time here in Buffalo. Are you planning any trips here in the next little bit?
Ted, I am. I get to go to the University of Miami, our 40-year reunion for winning the NCAA championships. We won 2 NCAA championships in a row. And so the game the first week of November, I think it's the 4th. The 4th of November, it's homecoming weekend, and they're going to honor the golf team on the field at halftime. So I get to go to the University of Miami and see all my old buddies.
Very good. Very good. And that'll be in the first part of November. So that'll be very exciting for you, sort of old home week, if you will, give you an opportunity. And just remind everybody as well, Cindy, you've got some boot camps coming up in the new year. And maybe one more time, if you want to plug the Learn to Hit It kit, we'll do that as well.
So the boot camps, if you're interested in going to Orlando in February, March, or April and working on your game and changing your game forever, I guarantee it, go to cindymillergolf.com, click on instruction, and click on boot camps. And then if you aren't able to go to boot camp and you need to practice at home and learn how to hit it clean, airborne, and straight on purpose, go to learntohititkit.com. And you can purchase your kit, which includes a portable mat, foam, practice balls, a coupon for 10% off any Callaway golf club, my Golf 101 book, and a 10-module online course with 8 downloadable PDF worksheets, all for $99. So it's a great deal to learn how to hit it better this winter.
Perfect. Well said. And just a quick reminder as well, as I mentioned at the top of the show, December the 12th, Tuesday, December the 12th, will be our last show for 2017, and then we'll be starting up again February 6th with a brand new season in 2018. That'll be February 6th, so you want to make sure you take a tune for that. And in between, on our last show on December 12th, we're going to give you some specific tips on what you can be doing or what you can be working on until you join us back again in February. So we're going to give you some tips about that, and Cindy and I will talk about that before that show, but we want to make sure that you tune in. Well, Cindy, unfortunately it looks like Tom is not able to join us this morning. We've just got a few minutes left here, so I just want to take this opportunity, Cindy, to always thank you for all of the great work that you do both on and off the golf course, and for some of the many great guests that we've had the opportunity to have on this show. I really enjoy speaking with them and learning from them, as I know you do. And of course, many of them are folks that you've actually, in some cases, personally worked with or maybe played with, whether it be on the Legends Tour or maybe even on the regular LPGA Tour. So it's great to talk to them. We're going to have some great guests coming up in the new year. One of the great guests coming up here in just a few weeks is going to be Catherine Roberts, who I've had the pleasure of speaking with numerous times on my other program, Golf Talk Live, Thursday nights. She's a great professional in the sport, very well known, been on the Golf Channel many, many times. Cindy, I know that you know her We're super excited to have her. And then right after her, we're going to be having back one of our earlier guests, Jane Blaylock, is going to be coming back on as well. And she's always got lots of great stories and information to share with the listeners. So we want to make sure that you tune in. But we're going to close off a little bit earlier today in lieu of Tom not being able to make it here. But we'll try and get him and reschedule him for another date, perhaps when it's a little his schedule's a little bit more open. But on behalf of Cindy Miller and I, we want to take this opportunity to thank all of the listeners worldwide for faithfully tuning in each and every week to the Women of Golf Show. And it's really through your continued listenership and participation that we enjoy doing this broadcast, and we thank you very much from the bottom of our hearts. And, of course, to all of the great guests, it's really through their participation and their input into the program that make it a first-class show. So thank you, everybody, for joining in on the program, and thank you particularly for tuning into the program. So, Cindy, you have a great day out there. Go knock them stiff, as they say, and help some of those students out there become a better golfer. And we'll see you next week on the Women of Golf Show. Thanks, Cindy.
Thanks, Ted. Bye-bye.
All right, bye.